Hi and welcome to Whisky Shared. You're watching episode 34 of my Mystery Monthly Minis. I'm Toby and you're watching Whisky Shared. Welcome to episode 34 of my Mystery Monthly Minis. If you've seen this before and you know it works, then you can just skip straight forward to the tasting. Otherwise, the way this works is I have almost 150 samples in my sample collection and my wife will pick one at random and put it into this blue Glencairn glass. I'll nose it, I'll taste it, I'll tell you if I like it, and I'll have a stab at what I think it is. Should we find out what I'm drinking? On to the whiskey. If you'd like to play along with me and find out what's in my glass when I do, then just keep watching. Otherwise, take a look in the description now for a sneak peek. Let's start with the nose. This is interesting. So there's a couple of things I get instantly. There's like a sweetness, like toffee or caramel. And there's like a slightly smoky note. It's just like a hint of smoke. There's a slightly like vegetal or funky note in there as well. Hint of diesel. Hint of red fruits. Possibly a wine influence in there. Hint of chocolate. Yeah, slightly earthy. That vegetable note has become a little earthy. But I'm not getting much more. Let's move on to the palate. Yeah, I definitely think there's a sherry influence in there. There's lots of red fruits, lots of juicy raisins and figs, plums. Really is nice. There's also a really rich chocolate note that I also picked up on the nose. That's there on the palate. There's a little bit of heat, a little tingle on the tongue, but I don't think this is overly high ABV. Probably 43, 46 at this stage. Let's have another sip. Yeah, I'd say there's a slight youthfulness to this, but because I think I can taste the underlying spirit with this. I think there's a hint of orchard fruits in there. I think there's a slight acetone note. I think there's also a little bit of malted barley, but the malted barley isn't very strong. But I think that freshness, is making me think it's young, but I don't know, my gut reaction is maybe it isn't young, maybe it is a bit older, maybe it's 10 plus years old. It reminds me a little bit of a Glendronach, something like the Heelan or the 12-year-old, reminds me of something like that. But it definitely has a slight freshness to it, and the sherry influence has sort of rounded that ever so slightly and given it some sort of juicy red fruits. Let's have one more sip. Yeah, along with those red fruits, I think there's a hint of sulphur, sort of struck match. It's not very strong. The smoke that I was picking up on the nose, that hint of smoke, doesn't really come across at all on the palate. I haven't picked that up. But yeah, I think this is definitely a sherry aged whiskey or possibly sherry finished whiskey. I'd say it's 10 plus years old. I'd say it's a Scotch whiskey. I'd say it's Highland, and yeah, it definitely reminds me of a Glendronach, but yeah, it's possibly could be anything. It really is difficult to nail it down without any real indicators other than the nose and the palate. It is a tasty dram, and yeah, it's one I'd definitely consider buying if it's still available. Should we find out what's in my glass? Right, so it's a Glengoyne 14-year-old and it's 40% ABV, and it was sent to me by Jim, the whiskey novice. So thanks, Jim. I'm pretty certain Jim sent me this a long time ago. This is probably one of my oldest samples. Must be, if I had to guess, at least 4 years old. I've had this in my collection, and although I've not had, I don't think I've had any Glengoyne probably in the last 3 years. This is really nice. It's only 40% ABV, and if I remember rightly, this 14-year-old was an exclusive for Marks and Spencer's. So yeah, it's effectively a supermarket whiskey in the United Kingdom, but it is obviously from the giant that is Glengoyne, and they do sherry finished or sherry aged whiskey. So yeah, I'm not surprised, but it definitely reminded me of a young Glendronach. I'm glad I got the sort of age right. It is obviously a 10 plus year whiskey, so I got that. And the ABV is slightly deceptive. I think this could easily get away with being a few points higher. So yeah, I'm not too disappointed with what I came up for this, and although I didn't nail it, that's never my intention. It's always to learn. And yeah, thanks again, Jim, for sending me a really interesting whiskey, and I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did. Sauncha.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not give it a like or a comment, and please consider subscribing for more videos like this.